Hi, welcome to the first episode of Box of Flicks. As you can see behind me, I own a whole lot of movies. I love movies. I'm not an educated film critic or anything, but I love movies, and so I took a bunch of movies off the wall behind me. I threw them in a box, and every week I'm going to sit down with you and talk about one of these films. And the first one we're going to talk about is a little Harold Lloyd film called The Kid Brother. Harold Lloyd is probably my favorite silent film comedian, which is by no means a slight against Chaplin or Keaton. Those guys were the holy trinity of silent film comedy. But there was always something more to Lloyd, possibly his relatability, possibly his tilt towards romance. After all, he was considered the godfather of romantic comedies. And we get a great taste of that in today's picture, The Kid Brother, from 1927. Shot more than 90 years ago, it would be easy to assume that much of this is unrelatable. World War I was becoming a memory. Cars were only just becoming a thing. And internet speeds were astronomically low. I'd be willing to bet you'd never find a Starbucks with good Wi-Fi. Movies were different, though. CGI didn't exist, outside of Cow Guts Incorporated, at least. So instead of relying on flash and dazzle, filmmakers were forced to use wit and intelligence. Stories were smaller, even epics. And without the advent of sound, fast talkers and one-liners simply had no place. Absent any of that, Lloyd created this character called the Glasses character, typified by quick wits, ingenuity, respect, and decency. I want you to take a minute and think of the last time you saw a character in a film with those traits: quick wits, ingenuity, respect, and decency. Oh, they exist, but I'm willing to bet not where you might expect. More on that later. The Kid Brother is one of those stories about a young man who makes good, the underdog, the guy you least expect. And because the social mores of the time leaned heavily on tradition, Lloyd's character respects his father, does as he's told, for the most part, and when he meets the girl, the leading lady, his love interest, as it were, he doesn't make his move right away. They don't fall into bed. Things have to move more slowly. He has to court her a little. And there's this great scene in which you see this happen as Lloyd is climbing a tree, and the camera climbs right along with him. And the simplicity of the shots makes you forget all of the preparation, all the work. There's no green screen there. He's up in that tree, climbing just to talk to a girl. I'm not going to give too much away because you really need to see the movie for yourself. But right now I'd like to get back to those traits of quick wits, ingenuity, respect, and decency. Harold Lloyd was not a small man, but he tended to play the underdog, which won the sympathy of his audience. He cast big guys to play the villains opposite himself, or worse still, big buildings. And in this picture, the villain is played by Konstantin Romanov. Sounds like Russian royalty. But he was actually a professional wrestler. Big, scary-looking dude. Later in the picture, Lloyd had to fight Romanov one-on-one in a long sequence that was shot entirely on a ship docked just off Catalina Island, very close to here. But you'll notice as you watch that he can't just run in guns blazing. That's another thing about these movies. They didn't solve every problem with guns. Lloyd is once again forced to use his wits and ingenuity. Now, I know I've mentioned this before, but where do you see that in films these days. Most blockbusters are about big guys with big guns shooting the hell out of everything, for the most part. But when I think of underdog characters using wits and ingenuity to fight the bad guys, you might be surprised to know that my mind turns to characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Characters such as Spider-Man, Ant-Man, and even Iron Man when you think of it. The idea of winning by using your brains just may be returning to fashion. Certainly the Marvel movies are loved by just about everyone. But geniuses like Lloyd, Keaton, Chaplin, and oh so many others in the Silent Age knew the power of solving problems and not just killing everybody. The idea was to bring the villain to justice, to prove that right is stronger than might. And that's just what Lloyd does in this film. Does that make him a prototypical superhero in the Marvel fashion? Considering that he did his own stunts with half a hand, and did them in such a way that you were rooting for him and laughing your guts out the entire time, sure, why not? Yes, it does. He just never took off his glasses to show he was really Superman all along. Yes, I know that's DC, but you see my point. Anyway, that's my take on The Kid Brother. Should you see it? Absolutely. See it with as many people as you can, because comedy is infectious, even when it's 90 years old. Should some studio remake The Kid Brother? Without a doubt. Cast some tiny little underdog who could use some lessons in acting smarter and not harder. Like Tom Cruise. The Kid Brother is a bona fide classic that will wake your heart while tickling your funny bone. And there you go. That was The Kid Brother. You'll see a whole lot more movies in the week ahead. I've got a whole lot in this box over here, and I can't wait to show them and tell you all about them in future episodes. I'm doing all of this talking right here without a script, and I am not very good at that. So I appreciate your patience and putting up with me. For the next episode, a little film by another silent classic, and I hope to see you here. And there you have it. You've just survived another Ken LaSalle video. For more information about new releases, projects in the works, or even stuff from the archives, head on down to kenlasalle.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, and all around social media, just as long as it's called Facebook or Twitter. Thanks for your support, as always. Be sure to subscribe to this channel, and I'll be back soon with more nonsense.